Welcome back to GEO-EPOCHS, and today it was going to be over rule of V's, but today's GEO-EPOCHS episode is actually going to be about the earthquake that just occurred in Japan. I wanted to go over what a focus is, what an epicenter is, what an aftershock is, and we're gonna first read the article. So, Japan earthquake off of Fukushima is an aftershock of the 2011 disaster. When I first read this on Saturday, it was a 7.2. It's jumped up to 7.3 magnitude, which is, as we'll go through, that's actually a very powerful earthquake. So it's an aftershock of an earthquake that occurred in 2011. The original earthquake was a 9.1, which is super destructive. That is one of the highest earthquakes in human history. And this one caused a meltdown of the Fukushima Nuclear Reactor. The 7.3 is an aftershock to that earthquake, which is pretty incredible. Aftershock is basically residual energy that's left over from a larger earthquake. In this case, a 9.1 earthquake occurred in 2011. It's crazy that even 10 years later, it's still adjusting. The crust is still adjusting from this major earthquake in 2011, and you're still having aftershocks. And the aftershock is stronger than, some earthquakes that are occurring all around the world. So basically, an earthquake is a smaller earthquake that follows the larger earthquake in the same area of the main shock, and it's caused by the displaced crust adjusting to the effects of the main shock, which steadily increase in magnitude and frequency according to known laws. But this is 10 years after the fact, and the magnitude seemingly has increased. So it's pretty incredible, this particular earthquake. So a strong earthquake that struck off the coast of Japan, injuring more than 100 people, was an aftershock of the devastating 2011 quake that sparked the Fukushima nuclear meltdown. The nation's meteorological agency has said Saturday night's earthquake had a 7.3 magnitude, struck off the coast of Fukushima prefecture at a depth of 60 kilometers, 36 miles. It triggered widespread outages, but there appeared to be no damage and no tsunami. So let's open up Google Earth and find where this is. All right, so Fukushima is right here. And the earthquake occurred, so it's basically right here. It's actually this trench right here. Not the Mariana Trench, the Japan Trench. And this is a large subduction zone. So you have what's called an oceanic convergent boundary. You have younger crust converging under older crust, which is denser. This is denser oceanic crust with this subducting underneath. And that's why you're having deep earthquakes occurring over here. This one was 36 kilometers deep down. So the epicenter is basically here, right? So let's jump over to this image. So you have your epicenter, and then you have your focus. The focus is basically exactly where the fault slip occurred underneath the surface. So in this case, the fault slip occurred right here. That's where the earthquake occurred, where the energy came from the earthquake. And then the epicenter, if you draw a vertical line directly to the surface, that's what's called the epicenter. It's drawn directly above on the ground surface. And that's what the epicenter is. When an earthquake occurs, it's basically energy that's being released in all directions at similar velocities, of course, and there's different waves. That's a whole nother video. It hit just weeks before the 10-year anniversary of Japan's triple disaster on March 11, 2011, when the strongest recorded earthquake in Japan's history triggered a tsunami that laid waste to entire towns and villages and caused a triple meltdown at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. More than 18,000 people died. Because of this quake was an enormous one with a magnitude of 9, it's not surprising to have an aftershock of this scale 10 years later. Earthquakes are common in Japan, which is on the Pacific Ring of Fire, and I'll show that right now, one of the world's most seismically active areas. Japan accounts for 20% of the world's earthquakes of magnitude 6 or greater. So basically, the Ring of Fire is a huge area of subduction zones. So Ring of Fire is all the way around here, comes up like this, comes up around here. You just have a bunch of subduction zones, a bunch of trenches. Japan is right next to one of the most active subduction zones in the world. That's why it will always have major earthquakes because of this. So the Mariana Trench is off of this area, and that is the deepest part of the ocean. As you can see, it's near Guam. and it's south of Japan. But this trench trends all the way to the north. It parallel to Japan, and then, you know, goes all the way around the world. So Ring of Fire is very active. One thing to note that the article said is that there is consistent aftershocks even after this large aftershock. There's still more aftershocks occurring in this part of the world. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'll see y'all on the next one. Later, Essentials.